After 28 days later and 28 weeks later, we have finally gotten a third movie 28 years later. And boy, what a movie it is. Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Smirac. This is Mars here. And today we're doing another Love It or Skip It. Today we're talking about 28 years later. Hey, this movie's a little philosophical. And if you're into zombie films, and if you're into psychological thrillers, and most importantly, if you're into Danny Boyle films, this is definitely going to be something that you're interested in. Okay, like I said, this is the third film in the franchise, 28 days later and 28 weeks later. But while you may not know anything about this film, it's not that difficult to understand what happens. They do a brief overview of what happened previously. Both the writing team of the director Danny Boyle and Alex Garland, they are the original creators of the franchise, and they're back again at it. And I'm telling you, this story really takes you for a loop. It says 28 years after the rage virus escaped. A jump species was really in the monkey, and it jumped species, and then it went on to just drive people absolutely bonkers in England and try to make a move over into Europe, but it was finally beaten back, and now England is quarantined. In this story, we see a small island community off the coast of Britain, which is protected by treacherous seas and currents. There is a causeway that allows the people to go from from the island to the mainland, but it's only available, certain times a day during low tide. Our main protagonist is a young boy named Spike who lives with his sick mother, and his father, who's like a major hunter or survivalist. He's determined to make his son into a man, into a hunter just like himself, whether he's ready or not. Typically in the community, you do not go out before you're 14 or 15, but he's 12, and his father's insisting that he has to go out, that he's ready to go and do this whole thing himself, which is kind of crazy if you ask me. One of the things that we see here in this new story is that the infected is what they're called. They have basically evolved over the last 28 years. I mean, normally you would think that zombies would die out after a while. Well, here, I guess many have, but many others have evolved. They've been able to find other things to sustain them and live. So they're basically two major types, well, it's more than that, but the two or three major types that we see are the slow lows. These are grotesque, ground-crawling, infected zombies that lurk on the ground, and they eat people, but they also eat like worms and anything on the ground that they can find. They're big and fat and grotesque. And they eat corpse on the ground. In addition, we also have these regular infected that, when you see them, they run after you. I mean, super fast. If you remember Attack on Titans, this is very similar. If you ask me, they run after you. They seem mindless, but guess what? They're not really that mindless, because there seems to be some type of evolution within where there is now a hierarchy, and at the top of this hierarchy, there's something called the Alpha. These are like big, super strong infected who lead large packs of these infected. They even show emotion. They seem to be able to protect their own. They get angry. They want revenge for certain things, and and it seems that they're starting to mate. It's crazy, but they are unstoppable. I mean, unlike some of the others, that when you shoot them with an arrow, they die if you shoot them in the right spot. Alphas can take numerous hits and still continue to live. I mean, you basically have to shoot a shotgun at some of these guys, and they're terrifying. I mean, they basically mark their area wherever they are, just as an animal. So it's almost like a whole new species of humans are now evolving after they devolved. But that's not only the only thing. I mean, you have this world is a frightening world. There are communities of humans that our main protagonist is told, Spike, that are around. And, as we go on, you're going to see that some of these are very, very frightening. But probably the most frightening person in this entire thing is someone named Dr. Kelson, a.k.a. in England they call him GPs. He's a doctor. And, whereas most humans, ran to communities and came to live with one another, he stayed out there in the wild, in the woods, and he basically gathered as many humans that had died, lined them up neatly, and then started burning their bodies. He took off all the flesh off their skin and just all the flesh off their bones, and then he just piled the bones into these gigantic statues. It's creepy, He puts iodine on himself so he looks all orange because I guess it stops the infection of the rage virus or to prevent them. So, and he's studying these guys. He's studying what they're doing and how they're surviving. So it is absolutely goody goo goo nuts. There's some fantastic scenes though that I think that if you're into the movie, you're going to see. There's this one scene that I totally loved where you have soldiers who are being chased by infected. So there's a quarantine around the island of Britain, and so what they did, these guys, their boat got sunk, not sunk, it got damaged, and so they had to land on the island. And so they're trying to get away from the infected, and the infected are just chasing them down. It is absolutely nuts. And they're shooting them with modern guns and equipment, and it can't stop them. Basically after that initial, they go into a tunnel and they just get ripped from one side to the next. Absolutely wild. Another great scene is when they're in a church and the infected is looking for them and they're just coming out. Of course, you have the whole pastor and the infected's coming through the glass, stained glass. It's crazy. Another great one that I liked too was, an alpha who, one of the alphas who is so enraged because with Spike and his father, because they killed many of the other infected that are, I guess, part of his pack. He's chasing them. I mean, one thing, he chases them into a building and waits for them overnight, just standing there looking at them, waiting for them to come out. And finally, when they come out, he just relentlessly chased them over and over and wouldn't stop. I mean, they barely made it back into the island alive. I mean, the only thing that was stopping was like a gigantic bolt straight through him. And it just shows you how relentless and powerful they are, that they can barely be stopped. One thing about that bone memorial by the doctor, where he packed all these bones of all the creatures, the infected and non-infected together, is that he's basically just trying to show, for a memorial for people to remember what happened going back there. Now, the budget for this film is about $60 million, and, they're hoping to outperform both previous films. The 28 Days Later made $85 million, 28 Weeks made it $65 million, so they're thinking that this is going to make $100 million. I mean, this whole new plot makes a lot of sense. It definitely makes, bring something new once again to the zombie movie. Overall, I think it was a pretty good movie, but I think it's definitely going to be for people who wanted this, who saw the original movies and want to see what happened next. People who like zombie films. It's definitely different from the typical Walking Dead. So if you go in there thinking of it like that, you're going to be disappointed. But if you have an open mind, you're going to have a good time. Of course, it has horror. Not a huge amount of horror, but there is some of that in there. So overall, I think that, hey, if you really are interested in this, you want to see the evolution of the next zombies, I suggest you go check it out. If you like what you hear, give me a thumbs up, comment, subscribe. Spinnerack out.